The city of Mayfield had long been known for its charm, tree-lined streets, historic landmarks, and friendly neighbors. But beneath the surface lay a tangled web of corruption, one that Police Chief Evelyn Harper had been quietly investigating for months. It began with whispers, a local businessman arrested for fraud who claimed he was just a scapegoat, a string of city contracts mysteriously awarded to companies with no track record, and untraceable funds funneling through government accounts. At the center of it all was Senator Gregory Caldwell, a polished politician who portrayed himself as Mayfield's savior while using his power for personal gain. Chief Harper was no stranger to challenges, but this felt different. Her instincts told her that uncovering the truth about Caldwell would not only shake the city's foundations, but also put her life at risk. Every lead she followed was met with dead ends or, coincidentally, disappeared witnesses. Things escalated when Harper's trusted detective, Sam Ruiz, found a crucial piece of evidence, a ledger buried in a recently foreclosed property tied to Caldwell's name. The document detailed millions of dollars in bribes, laundering schemes, and connections to criminal enterprises. But the moment Ruiz informed Harper of his findings, he was targeted. His car was run off the road late one night, leaving him in critical condition. Harper knew she had no time to waste. Caldwell's influence reached far and wide, and with Ruiz incapacitated, she could only trust herself. That's when she decided to bring the fight into the light. Harper arranged a press conference at City Hall, inviting the media, the public, and city officials. She planned to expose the truth, but Caldwell, ever the manipulative tactician, wasn't going to sit idly by. Hours before the press conference, Harper received a chilling message. "You've seen what I'm capable of. Step down, or I'll make sure you don't walk out of this alive." Despite the threat, Harper's resolve only hardened. She knew that standing up to Caldwell might be the last thing she ever did, but it would be worth it to free Mayfield from his grip. As the clock ticked closer to the press conference, the weight of the confrontation loomed heavy over the city. And so, with evidence in hand and the eyes of Mayfield upon her, Chief Harper prepared to confront Senator Caldwell head-on. The day of the press conference dawned with an eerie stillness over Mayfield. The air buzzed with tension as reporters, activists, and curious citizens gathered at City Hall. Police Chief Evelyn Harper stood backstage, clutching the damning ledger like a lifeline. Every fiber of her being warned her that today would mark a turning point, not just for the city, but for her own life. As the clock struck noon, the press conference began. Harper stepped up to the podium, the flashes of cameras blinding her momentarily. Taking a deep breath, she addressed the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. What I'm about to share concerns every citizen of Mayfield. It's about corruption at the highest levels, corruption that has drained our city's resources, endangered our safety, and betrayed your trust." Before she could continue, a commotion erupted at the back of the crowd. A sleek black car pulled up, and out stepped Senator Gregory Caldwell. His polished smile belied the venom in his eyes as he strode toward the podium, flanked by his security detail. The crowd murmured, some cheering, others jeering. Harper's heart pounded. She hadn't expected Caldwell to show up in person. He was supposed to operate from the shadows, not confront her publicly. But Caldwell wasn't just here to intimidate. He was here to control the narrative. "Chief Harper," Caldwell's voice boomed as he took a position opposite her, "I'm surprised to see you using your office to spread baseless accusations. This is not the time for theatrics. Our city needs unity, not division." Harper met his gaze, refusing to back down. "Senator Caldwell, I have evidence that proves your involvement in bribery, fraud, and worse. The people deserve to know the truth." The crowd gasped, reporters furiously scribbling notes and adjusting their cameras. Caldwell laughed, the sound cold and calculated. "Evidence," he sneered. All I see is a desperate attempt by a public servant clinging to power. Show us this so-called proof, Chief. Harper held up the ledger. This document links you to illegal dealings with known criminal organizations. Your name, your signatures, your accounts, it's all here. Before she could elaborate, Caldwell gestured to one of his aides. The man stepped forward, producing a document of his own. "And I have here," Caldwell said, smirking, "a sworn affidavit from the businessman you claim to have implicated me, stating that you coerced him into providing false information. Who's the real criminal here?" The crowd erupted in confusion. Caldwell had countered with his usual tactics: discredit, deflect, and divide. Harper could feel the tide turning. She had evidence, but Caldwell had the means to spin the story in his favor. As the tension reached a breaking point, a new voice rang out from the crowd. "He's lying." All eyes turned to see Detective Sam Ruiz, battered but determined, pushing through the crowd on crutches. His appearance shocked everyone, especially Harper, who thought he was still in the hospital. "Caldwell's men tried to kill me to keep this quiet," Ruiz shouted, his voice trembling but resolute. "Chief Harper is telling the truth, and I'm here to back her up." The crowd erupted again, this time with shouts of outrage. Caldwell's composure faltered for the first time as Ruiz handed over a flash drive to Harper. "This," Ruiz said into the microphone, "contains audio recordings of Caldwell's dealings. Conversations with mob bosses, bribe negotiations, it's all here." Harper raised the flash drive triumphantly. "Senator Caldwell, your lies end today." But Caldwell wasn't finished. With a subtle nod to his security detail, chaos broke loose. His men began shoving through the crowd, trying to reach the podium. Harper instinctively moved to shield Ruiz as officers loyal to her intercepted the goons. The public standoff had turned into a full-blown spectacle. Cameras captured every moment as Harper, Ruiz, and their officers faced off against Caldwell's men. The crowd, sensing the gravity of the moment, began chanting, "Justice! Justice!" Harper turned to the crowd. "Stay back and stay safe. We'll protect this city and hold him accountable." Caldwell, realizing the situation was slipping out of his control, yelled, "This is a witch hunt. You'll all regret this." But his voice was drowned out by the chants and the rising tide of people demanding justice. As the flash drive's contents were streamed live to the media, Harper knew the battle was far from over. But for the first time, the people of Mayfield stood united against corruption. The revelation of the flash drive's contents sent shockwaves through the city. Reporters were already broadcasting the incriminating evidence: conversations between Senator Gregory Caldwell and known mob bosses, lists of bribes, and explicit plans to manipulate government contracts. Caldwell's carefully constructed image of a righteous leader crumbled in real time. But the battle was far from over. Caldwell's security detail began to form a human wall around him, clearly preparing to extract him from the scene. The crowd surged forward, their chants for justice growing louder. Chief Harper signaled her officers to control the situation, ensuring civilians stayed safe while maintaining pressure on Caldwell. Detective Ruiz, still leaning on his crutches, addressed Harper with urgency. "He's going to run. We can't let him disappear again. He'll bury the evidence and come back stronger." Harper nodded. She had anticipated this moment. "We won't let that happen." As Caldwell's men pushed their way toward the senator's car, Harper stepped forward with a commanding voice. "Gregory Caldwell, you are under arrest for conspiracy, bribery, and attempted murder. Stand down and surrender." Caldwell sneered, his arrogance still intact despite the crumbling circumstances. "You don't have the authority to arrest me. I'm a sitting senator, Chief. I'll be out of custody before you can even finish the paperwork." Harper smirked, a spark of determination in her eyes. That might have been true an hour ago. But with the evidence we've just shared, I doubt any judge will grant you immunity now. This is bigger than you. The people of Mayfield won't stand for it anymore. As if on cue, the crowd began chanting louder, "No immunity. No escape." The energy was palpable, and Caldwell's security team hesitated. They were clearly unsure if they could contain the crowd's fury without escalating the situation further. Sensing his team faltering, Caldwell made a break for his car. But Harper was ready. She grabbed her radio. "All units, block the exits. Don't let him leave City Hall." Patrol cars roared into position, sealing off every road leading out of the area. Officers formed a line, standing shoulder to shoulder against Caldwell's private guards. Seeing no way out, Caldwell's men reluctantly dropped their weapons and raised their hands. Caldwell, now visibly sweating, tried a different tactic. "This is all a misunderstanding. I'm the victim of a political hit job," he shouted, turning to the cameras. But the crowd wasn't buying it. Ruiz, still by Harper's side, couldn't suppress a grin. The truth's out, and he knows it. Finally, Harper stepped up to Caldwell, holding out a pair of handcuffs. "Gregory Caldwell, you are under arrest. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." For the first time, Caldwell looked truly defeated. He tried to maintain his composure but couldn't stop the tremor in his voice. "You'll regret this, Harper. You don't know the kind of people you're messing with." Harper leaned in close. "And you don't know how much this city needed someone to stand up to you. Your time is over." As Harper snapped the cuffs onto Caldwell's wrists, the crowd erupted in cheers. Cameras captured every moment as the senator was led away, his once pristine suit now rumpled, and his face a mask of humiliation. Back at the station, Ruiz handed Harper a cup of coffee as they reviewed the aftermath. "You did it, Chief. Mayfield finally has a chance to rebuild." Harper took a deep breath, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "We did it, Ruiz. And now the real work begins, cleaning up the mess he left behind." As the sun set over Mayfield, the city buzzed with a newfound hope. Chief Evelyn Harper had stood up to a tyrant and won, proving that even in the face of overwhelming corruption, justice could prevail. The end.